You ever look at a woman you trusted with your whole heart and wonder how she could betray you so effortlessly? Men like you think loyalty protects you. You think stability earns devotion. But there are 4 psychological reasons women cheat on good men, and none of them have anything to do with your worth. These reasons start long before the cheating happens. Quiet emotional shifts, subtle disconnects, patterns you weren't trained to read. And if you don't understand these 4 triggers, you'll end up repeating the same heartbreak with a different woman wearing a different smile. So let's stop pretending this was random. It wasn't. These are the 4 psychological reasons she broke the heart of a man who would have moved the world for her. You know what's interesting? It's always the men who try the hardest who end up bleeding the most. The men who show up, stay steady, communicate honestly, and avoid unnecessary conflict. The men who believe that doing everything right should naturally earn loyalty in return. And yet, those are the exact men who get blindsided. Not because they were weak, but because they misunderstood the kind of role they were playing in her emotional world. A certain type of woman gravitates toward a good man for one reason. He feels safe, not exciting, not electrifying, not dangerous, safe. And safety can be a beautiful thing with the right woman, someone who's emotionally mature enough to value it. But with the wrong woman, safety becomes a hiding place, a temporary shelter, a warm room she enters only when the storm of her own life gets too exhausting. This is the painful paradox that most good men never see coming. Your loyalty becomes her comfort zone. Your stability becomes her breathing space. Your consistency becomes the calm she uses to recover from the chaos she created elsewhere. She enjoys the peace you bring, but she doesn't know how to build a life inside it. She leans on your emotional steadiness without ever intending to stay long enough to match it. And here's where good men make their biggest mistake. They confuse being kind with being grounded. They think being agreeable is the same as being strong. They imagine that avoiding conflict is the same as leading with emotional maturity. It's not. And when she realizes she can lean on you without rising to meet you, she stops seeing you as her partner. She starts seeing you as a refuge, a place to rest, not a place to belong. You didn't lose her because you failed. You lost her because she was never ready for the kind of man you were becoming. Now let's break down the 4 psychological reasons that make women like her cheat on men like you.
Number 1, she didn't feel desired, only loved. This is the part that stings the most for good men because you think you were doing everything right. You gave her love. You gave her reassurance. You made her feel safe. You would never betray her, never play games, never make her question where she stands. And in your mind, that should have been enough. But here's the psychological truth most men never hear. A woman can feel deeply loved and still feel completely unwanted. She can feel cared for yet feel invisible as a woman. And when that invisibility settles in, it eats her from the inside out long before you notice anything's wrong. Love and desire do not live in the same room. Love makes her feel valued. Desire makes her feel chosen. Love creates comfort. Desire creates charge. And without that charge, without that feeling of being wanted, claimed, seen, she slowly slips into a quiet emotional starvation you can't detect until it's too late. Good men unintentionally kill the tension that keeps desire alive, not out of weakness, but out of kindness. You try so hard to avoid hurting her that you remove every edge, every boundary, every moment of polarity that once made her feel like she was stepping into your world. You become too predictable, too available, too soft around the edges. Not because you lack strength, but because you think strength means never creating friction. In reality, friction is what creates attraction for her. This is when her language starts shifting. She doesn't say, "I don't feel desired anymore." Most women won't be that direct. Instead, she says things that confuse you. "You don't love me. You've changed. I don't feel connected." What she really means is, "I don't feel wanted. I don't feel chosen. I don't feel like your woman." But she doesn't have the vocabulary to express that, so she blames the only word she can reach: love. And then someone else enters the picture. Not a better man, not a richer man, not a more handsome man. Just a man who makes her feel seen again, maybe through a look, maybe through flirtation, maybe through attention she hasn't felt from you in months. He awakens a part of her identity she's been grieving, her femininity, her sense of being desired, her sense of being a woman, not just a partner. The betrayal doesn't start with the physical. It starts with the emotional drift. First, she disconnects, then she detaches, then she seeks the validation she misses. By the time anything physical happens, the relationship has already been bleeding quietly for months. Women don't cheat because your love was missing, they cheat because your desire was. But not every betrayal comes from invisibility. Some women cheat because chaos feels more like home, and that brings us to the next reason.
Number 2, she's addicted to emotional drama. Some women don't cheat because they feel invisible. They cheat because peace feels foreign to them. And this type of woman is harder to spot because on the surface, she looks passionate, expressive, affectionate, even deeply attached to you. But underneath all that intensity is a nervous system wired for chaos. Not excitement, chaos. And if you don't understand that difference, you'll think you failed her when in reality, you simply weren't her drug. Women who grow up in unstable emotional environments learn a dangerous lesson. Love is unpredictable. Love is loud. Love is unstable. Love is an emotional roller coaster, not a safe place to land. If her childhood or her past relationships were filled with yelling, gaslighting, sudden breakups, and emotional whiplash, her brain begins to associate chaos with connection. Her nervous system becomes addicted to the adrenaline spikes that come with instability. So when she meets you, the good man, the calm man, the stable man, you confuse her system. You offer healthy communication, predictable affection, reliability. And instead of recognizing that as emotional safety, she misinterprets it as boredom. She doesn't know how to receive consistency because consistency doesn't activate the emotional pathways she's used to. She feels the absence of chaos and assumes it's the absence of passion. And that's when the chaotic man slips in. Not necessarily a better man, but a familiar one. He texts inconsistently. He gives attention, then withdraws. He plays hot and cold. He triggers the highs and lows her body has been conditioned to crave. The very instability that would push a healthy woman away pulls her in. She mistakes her own anxiety spikes for chemistry. Her cheating doesn't begin with the physical. It almost never does. With this type of woman, it starts emotionally. She reconnects with an ex just to check in. She confides in a coworker who understands her. She keeps late-night conversations with someone new because we're just talking. She takes emotional risks long before she takes physical ones. These are the emotional hits she's craving, the ones your stability can't provide. And here's the cruel paradox. You weren't boring. You were stable. You were healthy. But she mistakes calm for emptiness and chaos for chemistry. She thinks the emotional spike means this is real, when in truth, it's just familiar. This isn't a woman you can save. You can't outlove trauma she refuses to heal. You can't compete with the chaos her nervous system labels as connection. Your peace is not the problem. Her conditioning is. And sometimes her addiction to chaos is rooted in wounds she never dealt with. Which brings us to the next reason, one that cuts even deeper.
Number 3, she never healed from her past. Some women don't cheat because of anything you did or didn't do. They cheat because they walked into the relationship carrying wounds you never saw, trauma they never named, and patterns they never confronted. And the hardest part for a good man to accept is this: she didn't come to you ready to love. She came to you looking for a place to rest. Women who haven't healed often seek out the safest man they can find, the man who listens, supports, reassures, and creates emotional stability. To her, you feel like relief. You feel like the first deep breath she's taken in years. She tells you she's never felt this safe. She says you're different, that you make her feel calm, grounded, protected, and you believe her. You believe you're building a foundation, but what you're actually building is a shelter, one she plans to leave the moment she feels strong enough to stand again. That's the truth most men never recognize. You weren't her destination. You were her recovery room. She didn't choose you because she was ready for real intimacy. She chose you because she needed a gentle environment to escape the chaos of her past. But escaping pain isn't the same as healing it. She hasn't done the inner work. She's just hiding inside your stability, using your emotional strength like a cast on a broken limb. And as she starts to feel better, as the wounds numb and her confidence slowly returns, something inside her becomes unsettled. Not because you changed, but because your presence reminds her of the broken version of herself she brought into the relationship. She begins to associate you with the period of her life she was trying to escape, and then the self-sabotage kicks in. Her inner voice starts whispering, "You don't deserve this. He's too good for you. He's going to leave eventually. This is too safe, too calm, too unfamiliar." Instead of confronting those fears, she runs from them. The moment she feels healed enough, she distances herself from the person who saw her most vulnerable, because facing that version of herself is too uncomfortable. And that's when she reaches for someone new, not because he's better, not because he's stronger, but because being with him doesn't remind her of the woman she used to be. You weren't the man she cheated on. You were the man she hid inside while she caught her breath. And the cruelest part is this: she may even feel grateful to you as she walks away. But gratitude isn't loyalty. Safety isn't commitment. And healing isn't something you can do on her behalf. Now let's move into the final psychological trigger, the one that destroys attraction faster than anything else.
Number 4. She felt like your emotional parent, not your partner. There is a specific shift that kills attraction faster than anything else, and most good men don't realize they've crossed that line until everything is already collapsing. It starts quietly, slowly, softly. At first, she enjoys being the supportive one, the woman who listens to you, guides you, helps you open up. She feels needed, appreciated, even important. But over time, something subtle begins to change. She stops feeling like your partner and starts feeling like she's raising you. And once that shift happens, everything else starts deteriorating. Women are naturally nurturing, but they are not built to be a man's emotional parent. They can comfort you, support you, encourage you, but they cannot carry the emotional weight of the relationship on their own. When she feels like she has to manage your moods, initiate every difficult conversation, or constantly teach you how to communicate, she doesn't feel connected to you. She feels responsible for you. And responsibility is the enemy of attraction. Good men often slip into this dynamic without realizing it. You avoid conflict because you don't want to upset her. You apologize too quickly to keep the peace, even when you don't understand what went wrong. You shut down during tough conversations, hoping the silence will calm things down. You rely on her emotional intelligence to guide you instead of developing your own. And while you think you're being kind, what you're really doing is pushing her into a role she never wanted. She begins to notice the imbalance. She's the one regulating tension. She's the one keeping communication alive. She's the one carrying emotional responsibility. And the more she steps into that role, the less she feels like your woman. The less she sees you as a grounded, self-led man. The more she starts viewing you as a project, something to fix, something to manage, something to maintain. And here's the truth. Nobody tells good men. A woman cannot be romantically attracted to a man she feels she's emotionally parenting. She may care for you deeply. She may feel compassion, loyalty, or even love. But desire cannot survive when she feels like the masculine energy in the relationship has collapsed. And that's when she becomes vulnerable to someone else. Not because she's cruel, not because she planned it, but because the moment she stops seeing you as a man, She becomes hyper-aware of any man who carries the emotional grounding she's starving for. She doesn't fall for him. She falls for the contrast. When she becomes your emotional parent, you stop being her man. But this doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you need to learn how to read the early signs and protect yourself long before you reach this point.
There's a point every man reaches after getting hurt. That moment when he looks back and realizes the signs were always there. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet patterns he didn't know how to read. And if there's one thing I want you to take from everything we've covered, it's this. Women rarely betray you without revealing their psychology first. You just didn't know the language. Some women reveal themselves through their constant need for outside validation. The subtle flirting they insist is nothing. The attention-seeking photos, the way they light up more from admiration than actual intimacy. A woman who doesn't feel desired at home will chase desirability anywhere she can find it, and she'll test boundaries just to feel alive again. That pattern never starts big, it starts small. Others show their hand through chaos. They can't tolerate calm. They create tension when there is none. They talk about crazy exes, as if they weren't part of the story. Their relationships always sound like wars, not partnerships. When peace makes a woman restless, she will look for the man who disturbs her equilibrium, not the one who stabilizes it. Then there's the unhealed woman, the one who jumps from heartbreak straight into your arms, calling you her safe place before she even knows you. She leans too fast, depends too much, and uses your presence to escape her pain instead of dealing with it. If she never did the work, your heart becomes the place she hides, and the moment she feels strong again, she'll walk out of the shelter you built for her. And finally, the woman who slowly shifts you into the role of her emotional burden. You sense it in the way she sighs when she has to start yet another serious conversation. You see it in the way she feels alone in the relationship, even when you're sitting right beside her. When she carries the emotional weight for both of you, she's already halfway out the door. But knowing the signs isn't enough. You need to know how to protect yourself without turning cold. And that means building an emotional backbone strong enough to handle conflict instead of avoiding it. It means setting clear boundaries. No secret messages with male friends, no emotional intimacy with exes, no gray areas. You're not her therapist. You're not her escape. You're a man, and you have the right to choose the kind of emotional environment you will and won't participate in. You watch patterns, not promises. You pay attention to behavior, not apologies. And when a woman shows you who she is repeatedly, you walk away before your heart becomes collateral damage. Because if you don't know how to protect your heart, being a good man doesn't make you safe. It makes you exposed.
Here's the truth. Most men don't hear until it's too late. Her cheating was never a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of her psychology. Whether she felt unseen, addicted to drama, unhealed from her past, or burdened by a role she never wanted. Every reason we explored points to the same core reality. Her betrayal came from within her, not from the absence of something within you. Some women cheat because they stop feeling desired, not because they stop feeling loved. Some because chaos feels more like home than peace ever could. Some because your stability gave them a place to recover but not a place to stay. And others because they felt like they had to raise you instead of stand beside you. 4 different paths, 1 painful destination. You blaming yourself for wounds you never created. But you're here now. Wiser, sharper, more awake than you were before. And this is where everything shifts. You don't respond by becoming bitter. You respond by becoming discerning. You don't harden your heart, you guard it. You stay kind, but you stop being naive. You stay open, but only to women who meet you with the same emotional integrity you bring to the table. You stay a good man, but you learn how to be a strong one too. Because your future doesn't depend on avoiding pain. It depends on recognizing patterns early, trusting what you see, and walking away from dynamics that drain you before they break you. You don't rescue women from their chaos. You don't fix unhealed hearts. You don't carry emotional loads that aren't yours. You protect your energy the way you protect everything valuable in your life, with clarity, boundaries, and self-respect. The next woman doesn't just deserve your love. She deserves a man who finally understands himself, a man who sees clearly, a man who chooses wisely, a man who knows his value so deeply that betrayal can no longer take it from him. If this spoke to you in a way you haven't heard before, subscribe and stay close. Like and share this if you know another man who needs this clarity. And tell me in the comments, which part of this hit you the hardest? Your story might be the one that helps another man wake up.